All right, good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining for today's webinar on employee wellness during COVID-19. My name is Meg Beyer and I am part of the Managed Care Technical Assistance Center team at the NYU McSilver Institute. And we're thrilled today to be joined by our partners at OMH, who are going to walk us through some really important information around wellness during this really unprecedented time. I'm not one of the presenters on the important content information. I'm here to give you some logistics to help frame the webinar and what you can expect today. So before we dive in to our webinar, here's some information to keep in mind. We are recording today's webinar. So if you want to refer back to something you heard, if you want to share this webinar with your colleagues, you'll be able to do so. We're recording it. We're going to post it to the MCTAC website. And we also will be sending an email out to everyone who has registered for this email on how you can access both the slides and the recording. So it usually takes our webinar system about a day to 2 days to download the recording. So you'll be getting an email from us with how to access the recording and the slides in the next few days. So if you want to, like I said, share that with your colleagues or refer back to anything, you'll be able to do so. The other thing to say is that we are going to be having time at the end for questions. So if there's anything that you have questions about throughout the entire webinar, please chat in your questions using the chat box functionality that can be found on the right-hand side of your screen. And we ask that you chat in your questions to all panelists. You'll see there's a little arrow on the right-hand side of your screen when you're looking at the chat box. It's pointed downwards, and if you click that, we're asking that you select all panelists so that we can collect all the questions. MCTAC is helping to put them into one consolidated document. We've done quite a few COVID-related webinars with our state partners, and we found that sometimes time just does not allow for us to get to all the questions to answer them. So what MCTAC is doing is we collect all the questions throughout the webinar. At the end, I will assist our presenter in kind of going through the questions and answering as many as possible, but for those that we don't get to, the state still receives them and is able to see them and follow up that way. So with that, I think those are the end of my logistics, and I'm really happy today to introduce our presenter, Kristen Horan, who will be taking us through the majority of the content for today. So Kristen, you are ready to take it away.
Thanks, Meg. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kristen Horan, and I am going to be talking with you today about a presentation that a colleague and I put together on employee wellness during COVID-19. So we have actually presented this to OMH and DFS, and it was actually very well received by both agencies. So we're hoping to make it available for other audiences as well. So before I jump into the demo of how I present the information to an audience, I'm first going to talk to you about the basis of the presentation. So it's set up in a way to focus on self-care and the normalization of everyone's experiences right now during this stressful time. I like to start off the presentation by just joining everyone by simply reminding them that whether they've been personally affected by the virus or not, we are all affected in some way by this illness. So I really just focus the whole time on self-care and normalizing throughout the presentation, and then even for the question portion. So you know, if any of the questions that people are asking you once you present this information kind of veer off a little bit from the self-care, I just try to kind of somehow weave that back in, as that is really the purpose of the presentation. So without further ado, I will now move on to the presentation. I'm going to present it to you as I would present it to an audience. One way or another. So it's important to remember that everyone who experiences a disaster is affected by in some way. And a lot of times you will see that people are having emotions surface, such as anxiety. They might be feeling an increase in stress, and it's really important to remember that those are normal reactions to abnormal situations. And even after an initial stress response, most people actually do cope effectively and grow stronger. And that's something that it's important to remember and kind of keep in the back of your mind as a positive reframe throughout this time, that you may actually grow stronger from this. So aside from stress and anxiety, it's important to remember that there are a whole other wide range of emotions that we can be experiencing at any given time. And it's okay if we're experiencing other emotions as well, aside from stress and anxiety. The most important thing you want to do is identify your emotions and allow yourself to experience them without judgment. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, sometimes I'm feeling something and I don't know what it is, so what if I can't identify it? That's okay. We don't need to put a name to the emotion if we don't have it. We just need to acknowledge that we're feeling something other than how we normally feel, and just allow ourselves to experience it. Don't judge ourselves. Use our coping skills to deal with any emotions that we're feeling. If we feel that our coping skills aren't working and that we're struggling, this may be a time to reach out for more help, and you can utilize your EAP as a resource. So in general, maintaining well-being is really important on a daily basis, but especially now more than ever. So some things that can help us with maintaining well-being are maintaining a regular schedule, like showering, getting dressed, eating at your meal times if possible. Something to remember is if you are caring for a loved one, we want to make sure that we're not judging ourselves, which will then in turn hurt our well-being, right? So if we're caring for a loved one, we have to expect and accept interruptions throughout the day without judgment, because they're going to happen, whether you're working at home and those interruptions are in person, or you're at the office and you're getting phone calls from loved ones that you're caring for out in the community. It's going to happen. Recognize that your workday may not be conventional, and that's okay. So one thing that is built into our work schedules are breaks. So for one reason or another, we may or may not take those breaks throughout a normal day. It's very important during this time in our society to really practice self-care. So take your scheduled breaks, set some time aside during the day to enjoy an activity, such as maybe you like to do chair yoga or deep breathing exercises. You might want to go for a walk. You might want to call a colleague, even if the colleague is just right next door, right? If you're practicing social distancing, you might want to just call them on the phone. You might want to call a friend or even a family member. Just do something each day throughout your workday that brings you joy. Another area where we can really focus on our well-being is maintaining healthy eating and sleeping habits. So it's really easy during times of stress to kind of just grab and go. You just kind of pick up whatever is in sight because it's stressful to, prepare meals and do all that. So you might want to do that ahead of time, actually prepare your meals and your snacks the night before so that you don't get stuck in unhealthy patterns or unhealthy habits during times of stress. Also, maintaining a regular sleep schedule is really important. So even if you're working from home and you have a little more leniency when you go to bed and wake up, you might still want to keep your schedule the same as if you're going into the office, just to keep that sense of normalcy, keep that routine going. Something that you may want to try to add into your bedtime routine is meditation. Meditation helps us decompress from the added stress, so that might be something that you want to try if you're not already doing so. A really important area right now to look out for when we're thinking about well-being is our media checking. So we want to maybe implement some media limits for ourselves. So limit checking the media related to COVID-19 to 1 time per day, and only look at areas of concern for you, so the town you or your family live in or work in. Something that's important all the time for maintaining well-being is practicing gratitude. Now more than ever, we want to focus on gratitude. So each day you might want to compose a short list of things that you're grateful for. Just kind of reminding ourselves of things that we're grateful for, even if they seem like benign things, it's really important, and it's really good for our mental well-being. It really helps with stress and anxiety. You might want to actually consider making a positivity mural in a place that's highly visible to you. So whether you're at home, maybe it's in your house, or if it's in the office, for your colleagues, other family members or staff can actually go by each day and write something that they're grateful for on the mural. And, as people kind of pass by and they see things, it might remind them of things that they are grateful for that they just kind of overlooked because, times are very stressful and it's easy to forget things that we're grateful for. So the next thing I just want to touch on is being kind to yourself and others. So we want to make sure throughout all of this that we do not want to overwhelm ourselves. We might not be capable of maintaining balance in every area of our life right now, and that is totally okay. We also want to be kind to others. So people do deal with stress in many different ways, and we just want to be mindful that we're not taking others' behaviors personally right now. They can be under a severe amount of stress as well, and we just want to be mindful of that. So a sense of community helps us decrease stress. But we're kind of in a catch-22 right now because we're being told that we have to practice social distancing from our community. But that does not mean that we have to stop communicating. So make sure that you're continuing your communication with loved ones and friends despite having to socially distance. You might want to use some online platforms. Maybe you want to call friends or loved ones on the phone or write them a letter. Whatever mode of communication you choose, just remember to talk about things other than the current crisis. So you want to talk about things you would talk about, on a normal basis, just to kind of keep that sense of normalcy. So thus far, I've talked a lot about managing your own emotions and, just working on your own coping skills. But the reality is a lot of us are also managing the emotions of others. So whether that's children or other loved ones. So I just want to touch on a few things here that may be helpful in navigating that. We just want to make sure that we maintain open communication. So being really open and honest about how we feel, what we're thinking, creating a safe space for others to do the same and to process how they're feeling, and just not judging how others are feeling and being accepting that other people may be having very different experiences than us. So some people may be anxious, some people might not be anxious at all. And just allowing for all those differences of experiences and expecting that they're going to happen because they will. Also, when you're dealing with others' emotions, you want to remember that not everyone experiences the same emotion in the same way. So you may experience anxiety as an inability to focus, whereas a child may experience it as a stomachache or a headache or what have you. So I want to shift now to some considerations for managers. So if there are any managers listening and they're having some difficulty in navigating how to support their staff, hopefully some of this information will be helpful. So I think the most important thing is keeping your staff informed. So you want to set up some regular meeting times for updates. And even if you don't have any new information, you want to keep that regularly scheduled time just to let staff know that there are no current updates. You also want to check in regularly. Reach out to staff, make sure they're engaging in self-care, make sure they're feeling okay, and also thank them. Your words are really important right now, whether you think so or not. So managers from time to time have to deal with grief on a regular basis, but they may be dealing with that more now because of the current state of society. So your staff may be dealing with grief in many different aspects. So maybe they lost a loved one. Maybe it's a loss of connection from not having that social interaction or not being able to come to work and see their colleagues and that type of thing. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful that productivity may be affected during these times, and just be supportive and just let your staff know that it's okay to grieve. In order to do this and be a leader that can offer support, you also need support for yourself. So you also want to touch base with other leadership staff and gain support from them, because you can't offer support if you don't have your own support network and you also don't feel that you're getting the assistance that you need. So to wrap up, just general coping resources. I've attached a couple of links here. So the New York State Emotional Support Helpline, the phone number is listed here. They are available 7 days per week from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then I've also attached a link here to a YouTube video. It's the OMH Commissioner, Dr. Ann Sullivan's talk on managing anxiety during COVID-19. So I hope that that presentation was helpful for you and that you gained some valuable information. And at this point, I am going to open it up for any questions.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen. So this is Meg, yet again, I'm back. And that was really helpful, I think really insightful, especially I even found like the reminder about the gratitude piece, just being thankful for finding the ordinary things that we might have not been realizing we were so thankful for and taking a moment to reflect on that daily. So that was something that really was helpful to me. So I want to say we haven't gotten any questions yet, but I want to just keep the line open and just see if folks have any questions. I know sometimes people chat them in at the end. So I know that, I did get one question, and I'm I think this is a me question. I'm sorry, Kristen. But someone is asking if they're going to have access to the PowerPoint. And yes, absolutely. So you'll have access to both the PowerPoint and the recording. It takes about a day or two for the system to download the recording. So you can expect an email with a link to the PowerPoint and the recording in the next day or two. And I would also say that for the links that Kristen mentioned, you'll be able to access those directly through the slides that we share. So thank you so much for including those, Kristen. Those look like great resources.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I'm glad that you found
wondering,
the PowerPoint helpful.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely did, and I can see people chatting in. They did as well, because we got another question. Someone's wondering if you would recommend that they use this PowerPoint and share it with their staff. What do you think about that?
I have no problem if they use it. If they would like to use the information, they certainly can pass along the information.
Great. So we are just getting a lot of thank yous, Kristen. Someone's really thankful for the coping tips you shared, and that you shared some very helpful and great suggestions as well.
Oh, great. I'm so glad that everybody's feeling positive about it. That's great.
Yeah. Just waiting to see if there's any other questions that are coming in.
Sure.
Sure. I think someone just asked if it's preferable to share the recording rather than the PowerPoint. I know both will come in the email that you'll receive. So I don't know, Kristen, what do you think? Do you think it's more helpful to share the recording or the PowerPoint or both?
I think that's a good question. I think it depends on, your staff. So if you feel that maybe they're more visual, it might be better to share the PowerPoint rather than just the recording. I don't think it makes a huge difference, just, I guess, preference, right? So whatever the staff prefer.
Yep. All right, so now we have some other questions. So do you have any advice or suggestions for helping staff who seem to express anxiety via anger?
Well, I think that just keeping that line of communication open with them and allowing a safe space for them to talk about their emotions and just not judging them when you're talking to them is huge. And then if you feel that they do need some extra support outside of just talking and processing on on the managerial, worker level, you can always see if there are resources from EAP that you can offer them to maybe receive some outside assistance if they're open to that.
That's great.
I hope that was helpful. Okay.
I think that was. And we got another question actually about So specifically, if you have any ideas on how to support call center employees, as they seem to be experiencing almost a secondary trauma from talking to community members calling into the COVID line.
Right. So that's also a good question. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record here, but my response is kind of similar to my previous. So if you are a supervisor and your staff have volunteered to be on the support line, just regularly checking in with them, allowing them to express how they're feeling and what's going on with them, what they're experiencing. And then if they're voicing any need for extra support, you can always give them resources through EAP.
Great. Thank you. Gotten a couple more thank yous.
Well, you're very welcome, everybody.
All right. Looks like we have another question. Someone's wondering, as an EAP coordinator, if they can offer this live presentation to their New York State agency.
So I think that we would need to, meaning OMH, like myself offering it?
I think that's what it sounds like. Yeah, I think that's what they're asking.
Yeah, okay. So I think if they actually get in touch with, or if they can actually probably email me, and then I can talk to my superior about setting that up.
Okay.
So my email is it's on the first slide of the presentation, so it's just my first and my last name, at omh.ny.gov.
Great, thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
For folks, if you didn't catch that, you'll see that on the slides when you get them, or the recording. Okay, we have another question. And this question is kind of a question about looking towards the future. So this individual is wondering that if you suspect that employees' anxiety might increase when there's the return to the office due to fears of being exposed, what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. It can go either way, I think. Employees' anxiety could increase, or they could, it could decrease due to returning to some sense of normalcy. So it's really, it's difficult to really say. It's going to kind of, unfortunately, be one of those things that we're going to have to play, play it by ear and just day by day, because anxieties may increase and then decrease the next week and then increase again. It might be like this ebb and flow,
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty now in this society, right? So that's probably going to be mirrored in the staff as well. Like they're also going to probably ebb and flow just like things are in our society.
Exactly. It's hard to kind of predict these things, right? Like it's something that's so valid to be concerned about and thinking about, but it's just hard to say, what things will be like when we get to that place when we're back in the office and how people will respond to that. So it's a great question, though. A hard question to answer, though.
Yeah, but it is a great question, and I'm sure a lot of people are wondering the same thing.
Absolutely. I know I am personally as well. So I appreciate that question being raised.
Yes.
Just waiting to see if there's any more questions that come in. Oh, okay. So this is interesting. Someone's wondering if you have a list of guided meditations to help with anxiety or sleep issues that might be able to be provided to staff as a follow-up to this presentation.
So I don't have any, but there is a plethora of this type of stuff on, if you just actually go onto Google and you Google, guided meditations, there are a lot of resources on there. So, you can even look for ones depending on who you want to provide them to. You can even look for ones that are tailored, to different types of populations. So that would probably be the best thing to do.
And I would also say that for our office, our MCTAC office, what we've done is we've actually created and compiled like a list of guided meditations or even apps that are now, that you used to have to pay a subscription to, but have now become free in light of COVID, that you can access apps on different kind of like anxiety triggers, or if it's a particular issue related to sleep. We as an office kind of created just kind of an internal list. So just speaking from experience as an office manager, kind of what we've been doing to support our team and our staff, and really kind of involve the staff also in cultivating the list, because I know sometimes folks let me speak for myself. I know sometimes when I am anxious, it is helpful for me to look for resources out there, and feeling like I'm able to contribute to my fellow colleagues' well-being by sharing some resources that I found can often even reduce my anxiety also. So that's been quite helpful. That's good.
And different people have different preferences to what type of guided meditations they like. So, I think that's great that you and the staff, compiled this list of things. I'm sure there's a lot of choices in your list. Great.
It even moved from just from guided meditations to actually like even like simple exercises that you could do now that we're all based at home at the moment, and how to kind of, things that we could do during the workday to kind of, maybe take 5 minutes and stretch, or, it helps kind of like get us through the day and reduce that stress and anxiety that we're all carrying with us. So it wasn't just meditation for us. There was movement as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Oh, and someone just chatted in, and this is a great reminder that NIAPRS is actually offering guided meditation daily through their website. So I guess if folks are interested, you could visit the NIAPRS website and consult that.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
I'm just looking to see if there's any more questions. Yeah, right. These are excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. We'll give folks a couple more minutes. I think sometimes just creating this space and having it available, sometimes people generate their questions a little bit later on. So we'll stay on the line for a couple more minutes and see if there's anything else that pops up. But I do want to thank everyone for joining, and Kristen for this really helpful, presentation. I think it gave a lot of us things to consider and think about.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So we're still getting some more thank yous, of course.
You're welcome.
I'm not seeing any more questions, so we'll give it another minute or so. But again, I think on your slide, Kristen, that you also, list some really great resources, and previously I think you had listed your email. So I know there was that one question about, if people were interested in consulting with you about potentially providing this presentation live, they could email you and contact you there.
Yes, and then I'll talk to my superior about, how to go about setting that up.
Exactly. Okay. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything else being chatted in. And Kristen, just really want to thank you for all of your time and what you've shared. I think this was incredibly valuable. And again, this is going to be recorded and posted, so folks will be able to revisit it when they'd like to. And I just want to thank everyone, for chatting in their questions. They were very thoughtful and I think generated some great conversation towards the end of this presentation. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And Meg, I want to thank you. And I want to thank everyone else for logging on. I know it's difficult during these times, you know, to take the extra time to do something extra, right, to add something onto your to-do list. So I really appreciate everyone logging on, and I do hope that this information serves you well.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. And thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your day and be well.